He's gonna have to fight! Bang! Pressure's coming! Dumped! Hogtied! When you've given everything, what will the record books say about you, Matthew?
Hey gamers, welcome back for Season 2, Episode 47 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. Last week, Giannis Antetokounmpo was the biggest trade talk of the town in the NBA. The deadline finally came and passed on this Thursday, February 5th. He really did stay put, that's not just a fever dream I had. And neither was Anthony Davis for peanuts, or James Harden for Darius Garland in a second rounder. Then I pitched a couple of niche sports I would like to see in the Olympics. As we speak, depending on where and when you're listening, the opening ceremony should have gone by for the Milan Cortina Games. And then we learned Bill Belichick did not make the Hall of Fame on his first ballot. The hilarity of the voting process got even better this week because Robert Kraft, the Patriots owner, who probably split the vote too much to get Belichick in, also missed the cut. This whole Hall of Fame voting process is going to change dramatically in the next couple of years because I don't think there's any coming back from this kind of shame. But this week, let's focus in on the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 60 will grace our screens with the Sam Darnold and Drake Maye matchup we didn't know we wanted. Let's preview the game and make our predictions as always for Super Bowl 60. Don't you want to pick the hotter team off the bat? Don't you want to pick the better defense off the bat? My answer to both of those is yes, because we're taught that that's who wins in January and February, and doing that all on its own means I would pick Seattle to win by double digits. But I just don't think it's going to be as simple as that in any way. You get 2 weeks to prepare after you win the conference championship, and that's the number one reason that I don't know how to pick this game. Both of these coaches are known for winning, and they both have highly successful defensive coordinator backgrounds. Mike Vrabel's been doing it longer in the NFL, granted, and he's older, so those go hand in hand, but he objectively does not have the same defensive talent at all three levels to work with. You can find some big advantages for New England on offense if you look hard enough, especially because there was a huge injury that flew under the radar for Seattle in the divisional that could really sink them. Zach Charbonnet, their backup running back, is a late-round fantasy dream and, in my opinion, a top 3 backup running back in the entire NFL. His career efficiency won't show it at 4.1 yards a carry, but he is one of the better accelerators and one of the strongest backs in the league. A backup running back scoring a dozen touchdowns is a huge boost, and even though Charbonnet had career-low numbers in receiving, he's capable of doing that well as pass protecting. Kenneth Walker is the starting running back and the better runner by a small margin, but I would certainly be willing to pitch the idea that Charbonnet is the better football player, and they'll be without him. Considering that lack of depth, Seattle will see their percentage of rushing plays go down at least a little bit, no matter how many carries they give to Kenneth Walker. The rest of the active players in the RB room have 25 career carries. And it could even be the right game to give Sam Darnold a couple of design runs. Hear me out, he had next to none of them during the whole regular season, but he used to have that tool in his bag when he needed it with the Jets and with the Panthers. Imagine Darnold's legs as the X factor in a game-winning drive or something. I could totally see this. Again, New England is the better offense, period. They have 2 very good running backs, Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson, who are both targeted often in the pass game. They have the advantage at quarterback, as Drake Maye just took a very close second to Matthew Stafford in MVP voting in year 2. More on that towards the end of the episode. Saying the Patriots have the advantage doesn't mean that Sam Darnold is bad. He's just always been susceptible to turnovers. That's who he is. He threw the 15th most passes in the league this year because Seattle ran the ball well most of the time. And yet, he still threw the 3rd most interceptions. Plus, no one else came close to matching him in his 11 fumbles. When you add up just the lost fumbles and the interceptions, Darnold had 20 total turnovers, Drake Maye had 11. Clear advantage there to New England. One turnover can decide the game, as if that wasn't clear enough when these two teams last met in the Super Bowl. If you like special teams like I do, then I have no idea what you're going to glean from them. I'm telling you, there are so many things making me seesaw right now, and I know I'm going to have to pick somebody in a moment. Regardless, the special teams kind of look like this. New England had a rookie kicker this year, Andres Borregales, who went 27 of 32 with a long of 59 yards, and was actually perfect from 50 plus, only missing in the 40 to 49 range all year. The Patriots kicked touchbacks on about 26% of their kickoffs this year, and considering the dynamic kickoff rules and how teams have adapted, that was the 5th highest touchback rate in the league. They're trying to keep it away for the most part from any returners. Seattle was down around league average in touchback percentage. Seattle has the number 1 scoring fantasy kicker this year and a very good IRL performer in 11-year vet Jason Myers. Myers led the league in attempts with 48, second in the league in makes with 41. They're both middle of the pack in punting and punt returns, right? You add all this up and there's just no clear advantage no matter how granularly you comb through all the numbers. I've already said Seattle is the best defense in the league, right? And if I haven't, shame on me. It just continues to leap out at you from the film. I thought it would be Denver, and I thought for most of the year that it was Denver, and probably some of the numbers even would tell you that. But they have been firmly supplanted by the Seahawks in the last month and change. Every addition this unit has made over the last several years is gold, and Mike McDonald's scheme just puts them in the exact right spots. DeMarcus Lawrence on the edge comes to mind. 33 years old, that's often a pass rusher's twilight, but he's about as good as ever. He ranked 13th out of 115 qualified edge rushers this year by Pro Football Focus. He had 8 sacks and 3 forced fumbles as a less than full-time player. 21-year-old rookie Nick Emanwori, he is going to be one of the best chess piece safeties in the league really soon. And although he's still questionable for the game with an ankle injury, reports are that he's likely to play. My first prediction is, if he plays, he will get a sack. He had 3 sacks and 18 pressures on just 64 pass rushing snaps. All of those led defensive backs. He's really an outside linebacker in a, granted, very, very big safety's body. He's 6'3" and almost 230 pounds. And the Mike McDonald scheme on defense puts a ton of people very close to the line of scrimmage. They're always disguising what they're doing and where the pressure might come from, so I foresee Emanwori getting home at least once. What I've never figured out about them is why they play zone coverage over 80% of the time and are some of the lowest man coverage users. Still, Seattle was number 1 in scoring defense and number 3 in total yards, so it doesn't really matter how they got it done. They are incredibly good on defense. The Patriots' defense was more sneaky good, 8th in yards per game, 4th in scoring, without any gaudy turnover numbers or an elite pass rush. Just like Seattle, they have chess piece guys and hybrid players in a very multiple scheme. With a 3-4 base alignment, you could say, but they'll play lots of 4-3, they'll go 5-down linemen, and then tons of other exotic packages. You're going to see so many safeties and nickel linebackers and nickelbacks and dime guys on the field this game, it'll probably stand out to even the more casual fans. I suppose that counts as one of my predictions. But that should pump up the rushing numbers if both offenses are willing to get into some heavier personnel, go under center, and go tempo even to prevent the defenses from subbing while they're outsized. And lastly, I'll throw a list of score predictions from an ESPN article this week down in the description. A headline that jumps out to me after reading all this: only 10 out of the 58 experts or pundits that they talked to picked New England. 2 of those being longtime Patriots players that won Super Bowls with them, those 2 being Teddy Bruschi and Jason McCourty. All thoughts and opinions are my own, but I do like to take a glance at what other people are thinking sometimes for games of this magnitude. My final NFL predictions of the year for Super Bowl 60 read like this. The Seattle Seahawks will be your Super Bowl champions with a riveting final score of 23-17. I want Kenneth Walker for MVP after at least 100 yards and 2 touchdowns total, gashing New England a couple of times for 2 runs of 20-plus yards while they're in light personnel. I like Drake Maye to finish with more passing and rushing yards than Sam Darnold, but throws 2 interceptions for the first and only time this year. If you like all the prop bets, I feel that one of the best touchdown scorer picks in the whole game is the Patriots tight end Hunter Henry. He gets more valuable the more that opposing teams want to send pressure, and there's always some space vacated by a blitzer. Henry had 7 touchdown catches this year on just 60 total receptions, and it's not likely that any other Patriots receivers are going to get loosed against the Seahawks' ginormous, long, athletic corners. This means a majority of the work in the pass game is going to have to be done in the short game between the running backs and tight ends. And I think everybody's favorite one, the color of the Gatorade dumped on Mike McDonald as they celebrate the Super Bowl win. I mean, look, it has to be blue. because it's on Seattle's uniforms. That is about all I have to say on Super Bowl 60. Again, either Drake Maye or Sam Darnold is going to win a Super Bowl before Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, or Lamar Jackson ever do, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. There's not much more fanfare to be had. There's just two very good football teams with good quarterbacks and solid defenses, teams who improved throughout the season, teams who no one would have expected to make it here, but here they are. The season's all over, but for the shouting, the food, the halftime show, I think that's being made the biggest deal of for some reason, and the final score. As always, hoping for an entertaining, tight game. The 2014 matchup was one of the best Super Bowls of all time, and I still get chills every time I hear that soundbite from the sideline saying, "Malcolm, go." If I'm Seattle and I have Ken Walker at the 2-yard line with a minute left needing a touchdown, I'm running it 4 times until I get in. Hope everybody enjoys the game. Other good news in the NFL, they have taken another big W this week. You all may know how I rave about the international games. It's one of the best times of the year when there's a game at like 9 a.m. somewhere far off, all the way until, the Sunday night game, and you never have to leave the couch for a whole day. But it's much more than that, of course, this international series. It's another way that the demand for football grows around the world. And Super Bowl week is certainly a good time to make an announcement. The next destination on the NFL's worldwide tour is Melbourne, Australia. The 49ers have been selected as the Rams' opponent for that game next year, and from what we saw this year and the way both teams are still around the upper echelon of the league, this is a fantastic matchup. P.S. Please give me a healthy Christian McCaffrey and a healthy unretired Matt Stafford for that game. Everything else is gravy. So, this game is going to be played at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. The date is still to come. I'm just trying to figure out the time change and when, in terms of local time, that game might be played in order for it to work for the U.S. audience. And I'm deciding to leave that to someone much smarter than myself. The international series has now hit Mexico City, London repeatedly, Munich, then Rio, Madrid, Dublin. Those debuted all this year, and they're all coming back multiple times. Paris is confirmed for next year. And now finally, the furthest trip of them all, Australia. If I missed anything on that list of international games that have been played, my apologies. To think that the first ever highly experimental game was played at Wembley Stadium in 2007, and then the whole international series has grown like this since is just insane. I still think we're decades off from having an NFL team based anywhere but North America. However, we might not be quite as far off, ironically, from getting American football in the Olympics. See that? I didn't even mention it last week during my Olympic wish list. I think the steam could pick up quickly for a team in Mexico or Canada for sure, maybe more quickly than it could for expansion domestically in the U.S. There are still questions about the 18-game regular season, if the league ever wants to get there, and how quickly that could be implemented. So you could even have the time that gets trimmed off of the preseason used for exhibition/preseason type games played in other countries, and then you could test the viability of their infrastructure. Apologies if we're getting off the point at all, so we'll return to it. The NFL international games are a huge W. They are seemingly doing everything right with them, and Melbourne, Australia is one of the most unique places that they've picked. Super excited to see that next year. And even in the heart of winter, we are still back to baseball. Pitchers and catchers are reporting for spring training next week. We have almost made it. For the first and only time this offseason, the Detroit Tigers are kind of on top of the world. They have made one of the most important franchise decisions of the 2020s, signing the top left-handed starting pitcher available, former Houston Astro Framber Valdez, to a 3-year, $115 million free agent contract. Valdez has become a year-over-year Cy Young candidate, even if he got off to a slow start and he didn't throw a full season worth of innings until age 28. He's now 32, which is a little bit up there in years, but he's only thrown a little over 1,000 innings in those 8 years, with nearly 800 of them coming in the last 4 years. Across that 4-year stretch, he has 3 top 10 finishes in Cy Young voting, a 3.21 ERA, and a 1.27 ERA+, 27% better than league average. It's a bit shy of elite, but it is solidly in the very good territory. You may have heard the Tigers' other massive news of the week, that Tarek Skubal won his arbitration case and is going to play out this year on a record $32 million salary. The team lost that case is the bigger headline, I think, than the fact that Skubal won it, because they were aggressively trying to lowball. They came in at about $19 million for their number. They tried to cheap out, and in the end, a judge saw the body of work from the past 2 years, then determined that was worthy of the biggest arbitration raise ever. The baseball world is glad that's all settled, and it also opens a door for the Paul Skeenses and the other insanely talented young, beginning to be arbitration-eligible players to get the kind of money they deserve. In order to be eligible, in general, players have to have between 3 and 6 years of Major League service time racked up. So it's all well and good for the league, but what does this mean for Detroit? To me, it means they now have one of the best 1-2 lefty starting combos ever. And I'm not even somebody that believes Framber Valdez is super special. It's just about how rare it is to have two lefties at the top of any rotation. Detroit's been getting younger and shedding salaries for so many years, roughly since they went to the World Series in 2012. And they are finally a solidified playoff team, year over year, spending the money necessary to compete for the World Series again. Valdez has a very different style from Skubal. He lives much further down in the strike zone, he uses his fastball less, he induces a vastly higher ground ball rate, and he sits a little bit below league average in velocity. Skubal is just about the polar opposite of all of those things, but they both get it done, and they've both been doing so for the last 3 to 4 years at high levels. I recognize, like everybody else, that Detroit has been kicking the can down the road on extending Skubal for the long term. I've kind of tongue-lashed the organization about that. But they have a serious championship window just opening up that they need to hit on. That's very good motivation to do so, spending all this money here on a high-end starter. If Skubal and Valdez meet their standards and their expectations, it should make Detroit one of the best rotations in the league, no matter who the other 3 to 4 starters end up being. And experienced starters that work deep into games and limit damage, they win you those championships. And quick personal/work update coming. Check out the live streams for both of the powerlifting meets I was at this past weekend. Oh, what a weekend that was. I had a high school basketball doubleheader the night before on Friday, so I think it was in the neighborhood of 14 to 16 hours on air over the weekend. It's the life I chose, but I gotta tell you, my Oura Ring has been yelling at me every single day to get my sleep in order. It's not happy with me. I have had my next meet to compete in picked out for a while, and I'm in competition prep as of about 3 weeks ago. I'll be competing at the Powerlifting America West Michigan Open 2 on May 2nd of this year. I get these sweet little messages every so often from the Federation, and they remind me that I haven't renewed my membership for the year. Thanks, guys. I'm also looking to compete down a weight class for the first time. I've only been an 83-kilo competitor, which is just south of 183 pounds, and I'm going to get down to 74 kilos if at all possible. You can change your declared weight class, and I believe the time period that you get to do so depends on the federation, but I'm already closer to the lower class than I am to the higher, and I have no reason to think I can't drop something like 5 pounds between now and then and still have really good performance. When that meet does begin to get close, I'll drop the link to the live stream for you. Final few notes here are on the NFL Honors. I did watch the Honors show this year, but I did not vibe with it starting at 9 p.m. Let's please never do that again. Matthew Stafford over Drake Maye for MVP by 1 single vote. Every other choice was easy enough. Ah, boy, somebody really did pick Justin Herbert for MVP. That's not a great look. But yes, of course, I think Matt Stafford deserved it. And then there's always the argument of the Patriots' strength of schedule that probably held Drake Maye back. Myles Garrett set the single-season sack record, and there was no defensive player in his stratosphere of production. He was unanimous. Then they also announced Hall of Fame inductees, and Luke Kuechly made the Hall of Fame before Bill Belichick or Robert Kraft. Kuechly did have one of the best peaks for a linebacker we've ever seen. Maybe he did deserve it, maybe he didn't, but Larry Fitzgerald and Drew Brees needed to make it in order for the vote to mean anything at all, considering how the ball's already been dropped during this induction cycle. Adam Vinatieri, the all-time leader in pretty much every kicking category ever and the league's all-time leading scorer, and Roger Craig, the first running back with 1,000 yards each rushing and receiving in a single season, were the last 2 inductees. If Craig is the quote-unquote worst of the bunch, these players are not bad. Seattle's Jackson Smith-Njigba won Offensive Player of the Year. Can he continue that all the way into the Super Bowl and tear up a pretty good New England secondary? Is he the guy that really everybody should be thinking of for MVP? Well, he is second in odds to Sam Darnold. It's something to watch for. I just get the feeling that New England's going to be able to cover him up, figure something out, and limit his damage. Thanks for coming back week after week, or if you're relatively new here, as always, we are happy to have you. Either way, check out all my socials, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, at The Voice of Tanner, X, just Voice of Tanner, YouTube, the whole thing spelled out with spaces. Leave a like, comment, and share, and I will catch you next week. This has been Season 2, Episode 47 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. Thanks for joining me.
He's gonna have to fight! Bang! Pressure's coming! Dumped! Hogtied! When you've given everything, what will the record books say about you, Matt?